The Premier League isn't just about titles and transfers, it's also about beef. Old school, deep-rooted, post-code level grudges that turn football matches into mini civil wars. These rivalries aren't just about who wins, they're about who ruins whose weekend, who walks into the pub with their chest out, and who disappears from group chats until Monday. From the scorched-to-earth chaos of the Manchester Derby to the underrated spite in Fulham versus Brentford, every fixture comes with history, heartbreak, and a whole lot of pettiness. So get ready. This isn't just a fixture list. It's a tour through football's wildest feuds with all the smoke, spice, and side-eye that make the Premier League the most dramatic soap opera in sport. Let's get into it. The Manchester Derby. Welcome to the most dramatic family feud in English football, the Manchester Derby. It's United in red, City in sky blue, and the whole city picking a side like it's Civil War. This all kicked off back in 1881 when Newton Heath, who later became United, faced St. Mark's, who morphed into City. Back then, casual neighborly kicks. Now, nuclear warfare with shin pads. United ruled the early decades, especially under Sir Alex Ferguson, who basically farmed trophies for fun. Think David Beckham, Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo. United was the main character. City, just the comic relief. Then came 2008. Sheikh Mansour walked in with a bottomless oil well and turned City into a super team overnight. Suddenly, it was Kevin De Bruyne launching missiles, Erling Haaland stomping defenders, and Pep Guardiola cooking something different every weekend. One game says it all. City 6-1 United at Old Trafford in 2011. That wasn't just a win, that was a public execution. The power shifted hard. Since then, City's been the team, racking up Premier Leagues and even the Champions League. But don't count United out. They still pack a punch with players like Bruno Fernandes and Rashford, and history always looms heavy. It's not just a match. It's Manc pride on the line every time. The Etihad and Old Trafford are just 4 miles apart, but the emotional distance, light years. This derby ain't just spicy, it's scorched the earth football beef. Arsenal versus Spurs, North London Derby. This ain't just a derby, it's a postcode punch-up with 100 years of baggage. Arsenal and Tottenham aren't just neighbors, they're sworn enemies who've been side-eyeing each other since your great-granddad had sideburns. It all went nuclear in 1913 when Arsenal moved to North London, Tottenham's turf, and it's been war ever since. From that moment on, every derby's been personal, petty, and one bad tackle away from going full WWE. The numbers? Arsenal leads the all-time series with 87 wins to Spurs' 67. In the Premier League era, it's 25-15 in Arsenal's favor. But it's not just about wins, it's about where they won. In 1971, Arsenal clinched the league at White Hart Lane. They did it again in 2004 during their legendary Invincible season. That's like showing up at your rival's birthday party and blowing out their candles twice. Let's not forget the spice. 8 Arsenal red cards in the Prem alone. These matches aren't just tense, they're Molotov cocktails in football form. Tottenham had their moments, especially from 2014 to 2022, where they went 8 derbies unbeaten. Harry Kane, North London's most annoying ex, always popping up with a goal. But now, Michael Arteta's young gunners have tightened the screws. Players like Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, and Declan Rice are cooking, and the gap's looking wide. Liverpool versus Everton. Some rivalries across cities. This one, across the street, practically sharing Wi-Fi. For over a century, Liverpool and Everton have been throwing hands in the same postcode, with just a park between their stadiums. But now Everton's packing up and moving to the brand new Bramley Moor dock, ending one of football's tightest turf wars. This is the Merseyside Derby, a local scrap with global weight. It kicked off in 1894, and since then it's become one of the most played fixtures in English history. 295 clashes, Liverpool winning 125, Everton 84. Back in the 1980s, these two were it. Between 82 and 88, one of them won the title every year. Imagine neighbors winning back-to-back Oscars and trash-talking over the fence. The 1986 FA Cup final, Liverpool beat Everton 3-1 at Wembley. 3 years later, another Wembley showdown, another win for the Reds. 3-2 in extra time. Cold. That derby was once called the Friendly Derby because fans sat together and shared pints. Not anymore. Now it's one of the spiciest games on the calendar, especially for the blue side who've been waiting to flip that script. Liverpool with Salah, Trent, and Van Dijk still run things. Everton, fighting tooth and nail under the likes of Pickford and Calvert-Lewin, haven't beaten them at Anfield since 1999. But every derby's a fresh war, and even if the trophy cabinets aren't even, the passion's always 10 out of 10 chaos. Aston Villa versus Birmingham City. Welcome to the Second City Derby, where Villa fans look down and Blues fans look furious. It's Birmingham's biggest grudge match, and even if they haven't met much lately, the bad blood is aging like vinegar. Aston Villa and Birmingham City first locked horns in 1887, and it's been messy ever since. Villa won that one 4-0, and Birmingham didn't get their first win until 1905 after 14 straight L's. That should tell you how the power dynamic's gone. Villa have 57 wins to Birmingham's 38, and lately it's been one-sided beatdowns. In fact, the Blues haven't won a Premier League derby since 2005. Most recent meeting, 2019, when Jack Grealish got decked by a fan, dusted himself off, and scored the winner. That's main character energy. This rivalry isn't just local, it's personal. Like two brothers who share a room, but only one gets all the good shoes. Villa's been strutting in the Prem with players like Ollie Watkins and Douglas Luiz, while Birmingham just clawed their way back into the championship. Tom Brady style. Yeah, that Tom Brady. But don't sleep. Birmingham want revenge, and they're loaded now. One big promotion, and this derby might explode back into the top flight like a microwave burrito. It may not be the most frequent fixture today, but when these two meet, it's elbows out, history heavy, and Brum goes full battleground. It's Newcastle and Sunderland. This ain't just a football match, it's Northeast Civil War with boots on. The Tyne-Wear Derby's raw, rowdy, and never just about the scoreline. Two cities 12 miles apart, one motorway of hatred in between, and centuries of beef marinated in salt and coal dust. The roots go deep, back to the 1600s when these cities were literally on opposite sides of the English Civil War. Fast forward to the Prem, and the grudge went turbo. Between the 90s and 2010s, these derbies were loaded with late goals, red cards, relegation panic, and pure unfiltered venom. From 2007 to 2017, this rivalry hit its spicy peak. Scrappy bottom half brawls that felt like cup finals. Since the Premier League began in '92, the record is dead even. 9 wins apiece, 10 draws. That's not balance, that's war chess. And sure, Sunderland dropped out of the Prem in 2017, but the fire didn't go out. In 2023-24, they met in the FA Cup. Newcastle rolled in and torched the Stadium of Light 3-0 with Isaac, Gordon, and Bruno flexing that Premier League muscle. No mercy, no apologies. All time, Newcastle leads by a single win, 54-53. But don't let that fool you. This isn't about trophies or league positions. It's about pride, territory, and who gets to walk into Greg's without starting a riot. It's not just football, it's Tyne versus Wear. Axe is out, always. Bournemouth versus Southampton. This is the South Coast Derby, not the loudest, not the oldest, but lately, it's been spicy in its own seaside way. Bournemouth and Southampton, just 30 miles apart, didn't used to care much. For decades, Southampton were cruising in higher leagues, while Bournemouth were down in the football basement, occasionally waving from League One. That all changed in the 2010s when Bournemouth pulled off a fairy tale rise under Eddie Howe, data magic, and a fearless squad. Suddenly, the Cherries weren't just a beach town club with a 10,000-seater stadium. They were Premier League regulars, and Southampton weren't ready. The first ever top-flight meeting? November 2015. Saints won it 2-0, but Bournemouth clapped back just 4 months later with a 3-0 win at Vitality. That set the tone. Respectful but sharp, like a handshake before a bar fight. 34 meetings, Southampton edges it. 16 wins to Bournemouth's 9. But that's not the whole story. This rivalry grew fast because of league pressure. Often these matches were about survival and not just pride. No one wanted to be the other South Coast club in the drop zone. Southampton fans still see Portsmouth as the main ops, but Bournemouth? They're not waiting for permission to hate. With players like Dominic Solanke, Billing, and Neto, they're pushing hard to match and pass the Saints, who are now rebuilding after a relegation dip. Bottom line, it's newer, it's neighborly. When it matters, this derby gets real quick. Brighton City versus Crystal Palace. Welcome to the M23 Derby. A rivalry so strange it needs subtitles. Brighton and Crystal Palace are 43 miles apart, don't share a city, and didn't grow up hating each other. So why the drama? Blame the 1970s when Alan Mullery, Brighton, and Terry Venables' Palace turned a regular lower league scuffle into a personal war with sideline smoke. In a 1976 FA Cup clash, things went full soap opera. After a heated replay, Mullery literally chucked coins at Palace fans and mouthed off. Since then, no love lost. Even Brighton's nickname, the Seagulls, was chosen just to spite the Eagles. Petty, yes. Legendary, also yes. These days, it's not just about history, it's modern warfare. Both clubs are now Premier League regulars, and this rivalry got a facelift with real stakes. The head-to-head is tight, with Brighton on 42 wins and Palace close behind at 38, and lately, they're locked in a 1-1 curse. 6 of the last 11 matches ended in that exact scoreline. If that's not cursed derby energy, then what is? Need more proof it's spicy? 3 red cards flew in their last Premier League clash. Players like Lewis Dunk, Eberechi Eze, and Mark Gahey don't treat these games like mid-table filler. They treat them like gladiator auditions. So yeah, outsiders might laugh at it, but inside the lines, this derby hits harder than geography ever could. Seagulls versus Eagles? It's real, it's raw, and it's ridiculously entertaining. Chelsea versus Spurs. Some rivalries are mutual, others are just personal. For Chelsea and Tottenham, it's the latter. 2 London giants who can't stand the sight of each other, especially when silverware is on the line. This all started in December 1909, but things really caught fire in the modern era. Since the Premier League began in 1992, Chelsea have bullied Spurs. 35 wins, just 8 losses in 64 games. That's not a rivalry, that's a highlight reel in blue. And then came the Battle of the Bridge in 2016. Spurs were chasing their first league title since dinosaurs walked the earth. Chelsea? Mid-table chaos merchants, but still living rent-free. Tottenham went up 2-0, then imploded. Tackles flew, tempers exploded, and Eden Hazard buried the equalizer to hand Leicester City the most unlikely Premier League title ever. That game had 9 yellow cards, 1 broken dream, and 0 chill. All-time Chelsea led with 79 wins to Spurs 56, and even in 24-25, the trend hasn't flipped. Chelsea's young guns, Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Reece James, are thriving, while Spurs under Ange Postecoglou are entertaining but inconsistent. Chelsea even torched Tottenham 4-1 in a wild early season game where Destiny Udogie got sent off and Nicholas Jackson scored a hat trick. It was chaos cinema. Sure, Spurs fans dream of flipping the script, but for now, this derby isn't just heated, it's straight up scorched earth. Stamford Bridge doesn't forget, and against Tottenham, they don't forgive either. Fulham versus Brentford. This one's got tea-sipping tension. Fulham and Brentford, 2 West London neighbors, used to pass each other like ships in the night. But now that they're both in the Premier League, it's gone from background noise to big drama on the big stage. The real explosion came in August 2020 during the Championship playoff final, a massive £100 million match. Fulham beat Brentford 2-1 in extra time thanks to Joe Bryan's cheeky free kick that caught David Raya napping. The win sent Fulham back to the Prem, and yes, it was behind closed doors, thanks COVID, but the bitterness still leaked through the screens. Since then, the rivalry's gone next gen. In the Premier League, they've clashed 4 times. Fulham took the first with a 3-2 thriller at Craven Cottage in August 22, but Brentford hit back hard, winning 3-2 at home in March 23, and then torching Fulham 3-0 in August 23 at the Cottage. Brian Mbeumo and Yohan Wissa, cooking. As of 24-25, Brentford still own the bragging rights. They've got the recent wins, the higher finish, and Thomas Frank's tactical madness. Fulham with Iwobi, Palhinha, and Jimenez are fighting back, but this isn't polite neighborly tension anymore. It's West London war with designer scarves. The fans may not throw fists, but on the pitch, it's elbows out, no apologies. Fulham versus Brentford went from niche to nasty, and it's only getting juicier. Ipswich versus Norwich. Welcome to the Old Farm Derby, England's most polite-sounding blood feud. It's Ipswich Town versus Norwich City, a rivalry that spans villages, tractors, and awkward family get-togethers because, yes, fans often come from the same household. This isn't just about football. It's Suffolk versus Norfolk, separated by 40 miles and centuries of subtle shade. The first official league battle dropped on 2 September 1939, literally one day before World War II. England went to war, and so did East Anglia. Ipswich have the bigger trophy haul, a FA Cup, UEFA Cup, and a top-flight title from the glory days. But Norwich, they've owned the recent chapters. As of 24-25, they're on a record 14-game unbeaten run against the Tractor Boys. It's not just dominance, it's generational trauma. Out of 120 matches, Norwich edge it with 48 wins to Ipswich 45, plus 26 draws sprinkled in. It's always been tight until recently. During the 24-25 season, Norwich swept the league double with Josh Sargent and Jonathan Rowe leading the charge. Ipswich, newly promoted and buzzing under Kieran McKenna, pushed hard with Connor Chaplin and Leif Davis, but couldn't break the curse. This derby might not go global, but in East Anglia, it's the Super Bowl. Pints are spilled, voices are lost, and Christmas dinner gets tense real quick if someone shows up in yellow. Old Farm isn't farm-friendly. It's quiet rage with historic roots and sky-high stakes. Leicester versus Nottingham Forest. This one's less glitz, more grit. Forget Big Six glories, Leicester City and Nottingham Forest are scrapping for East Midlands supremacy, and it runs deeper than just postcode proximity. This is history, humiliation, and hometown pride all baked into one fiery fixture. It kicked off back in 1901, but ask Leicester fans and they'll never forget 1909 when Forest beat them 12-0. Why the blowout? Half a Leicester squad showed up hungover after a teammate's wedding. Peak Sunday League behavior. It's folklore now, but the sting still lingers. Fast forward a century and Leicester became every neutral's sweetheart after winning the Premier League in 2016. A football fairy tale powered by Jamie Vardy, N'Golo Kante, and good vibes. Meanwhile, Forest fans clung to European cups and Clough memories, waiting for their return to relevance. By 24-25, it's back on. Both clubs are in the Premier League. Leicester, freshly re-promoted, are hungry with Mavididi, Dewsbury Hall, and Wout Faes leading the charge. Forest, under Nuno Espirito Santo, are relying on Morgan Gibbs-White, Taiwo Awoniyi, and Alanga to keep the upper hand. And the record? Even. 41 wins each, 27 draws, like a lifelong chess match where both players refuse to blink. In the 24-25 season, they split it down the middle again. Leicester took it 2-1 at the King Power. Forest got revenge 1-0 at the City Ground. No love lost, no punches pulled. This derby doesn't need flash, it's pure football beef with 100+ years of seasoning. Nottingham Forest versus Derby County. Some rivalries are born from geography. This one? It's fueled by legacy and one man's ego the size of Europe. Welcome to the East Midlands Derby, where Nottingham Forest and Derby County don't just fight for bragging rights, they fight for the Brian Clough Trophy, named after the most chaotic genius to ever wear a tracksuit. Clough didn't just manage both clubs. He won the first division with Derby, then dipped, rocked up at Forest, and won 2 European Cups in 3 years. Imagine breaking up with someone, then watching them win the Champions League with your rival. That's this rivalry's entire vibe. So now every match is Clough's ghost looming over the dugout while two cities throw every ounce of pride onto the pitch. Forest fans chant about Europe, Derby fans talk about being first. And somewhere, Brian's statue is smirking in both cities. On the pitch, this one's been intense, even outside the Prem spotlight. From late screamers to red card festivals, the fixture never stays civil. In the 24-25 season, both clubs are chasing promotion in the championship. Forest, with Gibbs-White and Awoniyi, still have the upper hand in recent years. But Derby under Paul Warren are rebuilding fire. One Derby win can flip momentum for a whole season. It's not just about league points, it's about who gets to hold Clough's name high. Wolves versus West Brom. Forget glamour, forget glitter. This is the Black Country Derby, where Wolverhampton Wanderers and West Bromwich Albion go head-to-head in a rivalry forged in coal, steel, and absolute fury. It's one of England's oldest and nastiest feuds, dating back to 1886, and it's aged like milk left in a boiler room. These clubs are separated by just a few gritty miles of the West Midlands, and the football, it's never been gentle. West Brom lead the record with 65 wins to Wolves' 54, plus 44 draws thrown in like elbows at a corner kick. In 2010 and 11, both clubs shared the top flight for the first time in decades. The Hawthorns saw a tense 1-1 draw, but Wolves clapped back at Molineux with a 3-1 statement win. More recently, in the 23-24 FA Cup, Wolves beat Albion 2-0 away, but the game was overshadowed by crowd trouble, proving this derby still got teeth, fists, and flares. By 24-25, Wolves are still in the Premier League with Mateus Cunha, Pedro Neto, and Eat Nouri lighting up the pitch. West Brom are fighting in the championship, but the hunger to return and ruin Wolves' day hasn't faded. This isn't a rivalry about global fan bases or flashy transfers. It's about regional pride, ancient beef, and bragging rights in every pub from Dudley to Bilston. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video at Soccer Deconstructed.